back to Cultivating Change, everyone. I'm your host, Alex Corey. We're going to do a slightly different approach this morning. Our prior guests have been health oriented because my whole stick with Cultivating Change is finding out what people have done on their journey to make lasting habit that they see moving their health forward stick. The other aspect I am intimately interested in, and that I'm trying to make stick in my life and have been for the last decade, is decentralization and sovereignty. Basically taking back your power over all aspects that touch your daily life. This is nutrition, this is movement, this is now moving into energy, this is money and energy exchange, finance, all of those aspects. So today's guest is Nathan Phillips, and he is the head of community and market development manager for ReSource Network. I was introduced to him through health, of course, as most of things come into my network through my passion for health. And they are a Web3 company, Web 3.0. We haven't gone too much into that, and there's a plenty of information out there. We'll be going more into that in future podcasts, but ReSource is a very specific type of networking company in that they are bringing and focusing around the community aspect. So it is not so much a global project as most Web3 or decentralized finance crypto projects are. It is hyper localized and trying to basically build a alternative and parallel economy for local resources. And I will let Nathan explain more before I butcher it. And take it away, Nathan.
You're doing great. Yeah, and thank you for having me on. Happy to share this and talk more about it. Glad you've been able to join the network, and hope that's working successfully for you. I do know you have found at least one client through it, and hopefully many more to come. So I guess I could also make the case that this is health oriented as well in terms of financial health. I would argue that the US dollar is quite sick, not doing very well. It's an ailing system, ailing currency, and while it's absolutely necessary for us to live, obviously, everything that we consume here in the US is most everything is through US dollars. And what we're building at ReSource, though, is a complementary system to that we hope solves some of the issues that are found with the US dollar economy, and also creates a way for us to build, as you mentioned, an alternative economic model for communities, as we've started here in Asheville, which we've also started in Chattanooga and in Austin, but then connecting those communities together in a regional and then hopefully national and global network. So to put it very simply, what ReSource Network is building, when I speak to these communities, is very similar to a barter network. Where members join, no cost to join, they're able to access a credit line in ReSource dollars, which is the currency we use within the barter network, and they're able to buy and sell with each other using loans and credit lines that don't have any interest rates on them, no fees attached to them, and they're able to really get access to things that they may not be able to afford with US dollars, or may not be able to afford to put their US dollars towards that at this point in time. We have a lot of food and healthcare in our network. That's kind of our heart of it. That's what we build around. And then outside of that, we start adding business growth services, because it's a B2B network. So everyone needs more marketing. We all need more sales, especially as the US dollar is losing value thanks to inflation. We need more sales because things are getting more expensive. And the ReSource dollar and our networks, help people get access to things that are very different costs than what it comes with the US dollar.
Right. And could you, for people who are not familiar with Web3, decentralized finance, or even crypto, what was the vision behind, or do you know the initial vision behind ReSource as a blockchain technology? Like, why did they choose Why did the founders, or how is it explained as to why they chose to use it in this model? What does blockchain lend to the model?
Yeah, I think that really boils down to the aspect of decentralization, of being able to build on top of those values, that we can, by working together, through a decentralized, from a decentralized perspective, as a foundational layer. And then what we've built is a mutual credit system. That's the fancy word for barter, basically. So having mutual credit, which brings in the community aspect of mutualism, of sharing, of realizing that we don't need someone else to tell us what we're worth or what we should be earning or what the value of the currency is that we're earning. We are capable and capable of determining that and working together to create something that works for each other and for people who share this idea of not having to rely on centralized institutions to give us what we need, to tell us how much we can earn, how much we can make, and so on and so forth. So it is, from the values perspective, important to build on the blockchain because that's what enables the decentralization aspect. And ReSource is converting because it's a complicated process with all the legal ramifications and the constantly changing environment as far as regulation goes and legislation goes. So we're navigating those waters very carefully, but we are converting to be fully member owned and member operated. Right now, ReSource as an organization, there are full-time employees, but I always say we're trying to work ourselves out of a job, which is get this network healthy enough that we're not needed, that's growing organically, and that everyone who's a member is able to have a say in how different aspects of it are being designed, built, and run. But then, of course, being built on the blockchain, the cryptocurrency that we have, it's called Source, enables some unique opportunities for adding wealth to the spectrum of trade and to barter. Most often with barter, it does make economic sense for many businesses to engage in trading through a barter system as opposed to strictly US dollar business. But with the Source token now as a part of our project, members who are realizing the economic benefit of barter with each other through one of our networks can also buy our Source tokens and hold them. And the value of those tokens are determined by the activity within the network. So when members are making trades with each other or just buying and selling from each other, they know they're getting something they need that makes economic sense in their world right now, a very tangible good and service. But they also know that that is affecting the value of this asset that they hold, the Source token. And so it's a further incentive to not just barter in a different way. And then, blockchain wasn't just a fun thing since it's a new technology for us. It actually is a wealth. We believe it will be a wealth generator for everyone who's involved with it.
Yeah, that was one of the exciting pieces when I jumped on one of the group calls with you, and that process became more apparent, because people are probably trying to equate it to something they can think of, and it's kind of like being a part of a company and buying their own stock. But instead of buying the stock, you're kind of just, instead of cashing out, so to speak, if you're working within the network, if you stake your token, that is kind of like having a built-in stock option. So you are putting trust and faith that this will be around for a while. Other people will find the community benefits, and everyone who is a part of it will benefit over the long term simply by participating. So there's no extra, the incentive is built in, or built into the protocol, so to speak. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it is. That's a great explanation for it. And right. I think, one of the key differences too that the blockchain realizes is that the key difference between that example is, as a shareholder of a company, that company may not be fully transparent. I think it's probably safe to say most companies are not fully transparent. And being a blockchain organization and getting to that point where we're fully member owned and run, like our code, our platforms will all be open source software. That's the front end marketplace. We're retooling that as we speak, where members have accounts where they see what's available for sale. They make their transactions with each other. That's going to be open source software. The underlying smart contracts built on the blockchain those are open as well. And people are able to come in and build on top of it to improve it in a way that they want to see it improved. Maybe designing themes for the marketplace or plugins or different features to bring ReSource to a new market or to a new location, whether that's their city or maybe a digital network, a distributed network. So that open source approach is, I think, also a value add for what we're doing, and that's a way that people can directly contribute to their success. That they can, unlike a large company like Facebook, I'm as a user of Facebook, I know that my activity does affect the stock price, but I have no idea what Facebook's plans and goals are. They're very hidden, very sheltered organization. So I have less control over whether or not that stock price goes up and down, which is not to say that like we can control the price of source tokens within ReSource, but the systems and the mechanisms of how that all works is transparent and much more clear to everyone who's a part of it.
So it's almost like from the get-go, you're not waiting for an initial public offering. There's no IPO. You're IPO'd from the start because everything is transparent. Everyone can see how the protocol works. There's no dirty laundry to speak of. And if you start using the network, you're kind of automatically a shareholder in the fact that as your contribution in the network grows and more people find value in it, and this will bring in the concept of a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. So that is, you have more say in the network based upon your involvement in it. So that's a key concept of blockchains that a lot of people like, where it's hard to just buy into it like you can with a public company. Most people will probably think of like Elon Musk and Twitter. It's hard to just come in and scoop up control of a technology or community when you're building it like ReSource is, where you have to have skin in the game to have a say in the community, so to speak. Is that accurate-ish?
Yeah. And it's really a fascinating space to figure out how to build a DAO and how to create governance that is equitable, accessible, and fair to everyone that's involved. There's a lot of tools and ideas out there that we're researching, putting together, and I'm really excited to get to the point to where the community, everyone, people such as yourself, everyone who's interested in the idea of financial sovereignty and complementary currencies and mutual credit, they can get involved, and people who even have studied governance in depth, perhaps for many years, can come in and help shape this. And shape the community and shape what ReSource DAO will be and look like for all of us. And yeah, and that's one thing that really attracted me to ReSource in the beginning, as I was looking to get into the Web3 space, researching different projects and ideas and companies, learning decentralized versus centralized, because there are centralized companies still in the Web3 space. Seeing that ReSource was bringing real world value with cryptocurrency was something I'd not really ever seen before. The idea of being able to buy food, a massage, and a website, thanks to cryptocurrency for my business or for other local businesses was something I never even thought of before. And it brings crypto into reality in a really, I think, intelligent way. And so being a DAO, being fully member owned, I think is essential to that, but also dovetails really well with the idea of mutual credit. And in a mutual credit network, it's all of us together who are in it, working together to give each other basically that sense of trust. We're relying on each other to have that trust to have a credit line, to buy and sell, that we're going to be good for our goods and services. And it's taking that approach that we don't need a bank to determine if we're worthy of a credit line, or we don't need a clearinghouse or a middleman to determine if we can work together or if we can buy something or not. It's that mutual credit, all of us working together to figure out and to help each other, to support each other, who's coming into this network, and then being fully member owned. As you were saying before, like we have skin in the game to that. So it's impactful, not just as a fun concept of let's all get together and find things that we can trade and buy and sell with some funny currency that we come up with. But it's actually skin in the game on the ownership aspect of it as well, and being able to have that say and be a part of how this grows. That was an incredible discovery, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this project. Learning of how those two elements were brought together is something that's pretty unique, and it's part of a new movement in Web3 in general of bringing the value into the real world, which I'm really excited to see. Crypto's 13 years old, and the first phase is all about investment, financial tools, raising money, which is necessary to prove the concept and prove the value. And now, though, I think this next generation, what I'm really hoping for and what I see coming is a lot more projects like this that makes the Web3 technology and the values, brings it right into our lives of, again, just really tangible things that we need. And I think it's coming at a really good time because money is getting a lot more expensive, and it's getting a lot harder to find. So we need ways to get things that we need that are outside the US dollar system.
Right. I think the reality aspect is kind of what this really drove home for me. Most people will only know blockchain tech or crypto from investments. So most people will buy into a coin, so Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or Doge or whatever is either stable coin or trendy, whatever, in hopes that it goes up. So they're treating it as a separate, almost abstract company. They have no idea how it really works. I mean, some people do if they actually look at the protocols and the white papers, but probably not. Probably they're just throwing money at it in hopes that it goes up in the future and they can cash out. So it's still not really real. It would be just like investing in a company overseas. You never really see them. You just kind of have either faith or you're treating it like a potential way to make money instead of utilizing the full power of blockchain, which was created to, exactly like you said, cut out the middleman and create a trustless network. So that was what all of the big banks and all the ways, the money processing fees, they all make money because no one trusts each other. They all play a risk game, which is where their money comes from. So blockchain in general, and this especially, take out that piece of it. So it is direct business to business or peer to peer. And you guys are bringing a little more of that human aspect back. So you are investing with your services and your time rather than simply your money. So that human aspect comes back into it. So it is truly the best of a close-knit bartering community where everyone has their specialized skill, and it immediately jumps in and takes the place of the initial currency, which was physical metal, and then that got clunky, so they moved to receipts for the physical metal, which is fiat. So this puts it back to the physical metal without all of the problems of bartering with physical things in your pocket. So same exact concept, but the lending aspect is a game changer. That was the part that I found so cool, which was you do not need to go to a middleman for leverage, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's, I think, another area of innovation that ReSource is bringing, which is even barter networks still have a middleman in play. They're usually a privately held company. In fact, the vast majority of them are privately held in some form or another, and they have brokers who are putting people together and making deals and doing marketing, and they're still a centralized middleman. And right now we do have aspects of that with ReSource as we're building on our pilot projects, and like essentially showing the value and the proof that what we have is something that is valuable and useful for business owners. But we're working to get away from that as quickly as possible, to have this fully decentralized aspect. And what's coming next year, one thing that I'm really excited about is an ability for someone to launch their own network, full, basically just network in a box, essentially. And they can say, and I'm talking to someone, for example, in a South American country that wants to bring that to his community, where barter is very active. They use sometimes US dollars, sometimes the Peruvian currency, and they just need a simple way to trade with each other and support each other, and also really keep a close-knit community. They're very interested in bringing back, and I guess not bringing back, but really preserving and growing pre-Columbian traditions amongst indigenous tribes in Peru. And so having their own currency to work with allows them to really support each other in a really special and unique way. And so that's like one option, but then different cities, potentially even, an entire country could launch their own resource dollar, their own version of that, and have their own currency. And then all these networks can determine if they want to trade with each other and buy and sell with each other. Like, can I take resource dollars to Peru or to Honduras and go into that currency on the built on the same protocol? So, and then for me as a stakeholder with source tokens, that's something I prefer to do, because I know then using that currency is going to contribute to the value of the overall project, and to the value potentially that's in my pocket at the end of the day, but also supporting this idea of an independent financial sovereignty and autonomy over our money and how we build together as communities and as people. So I feel like I put a lot out there on that one.
No,
but
that was plenty. And a lot of people I can see, or I can visualize, will be like, what's the difference between that and the US dollar? Because you can go to Peru and use the US dollar. But I don't think most people understand how the money comes into existence and the implicit agreements whenever dollars are printed. So dollars aren't printed and there's no finite cap. They are lent to the government and the treasury, and we are technically paying for the interest that they loaned it to the governments with our time. So all cryptos, ReSource specifically, takes that process out. So it is, you are not, you don't have to pay for the use of the currency with your time. It is directly a medium of exchange. There's no cost associated with it. Is that correct?
I guess, this aspect is one I think is really interesting in mutual credit networks and in ReSource, is that everyone can, basically every member can mint resource dollars. Right. And they do that when they spend into the negative into their credit line. And so they're not, when they use their credit line, this is a big difference. Yeah, they're not borrowing from ReSource. Like when you use a credit line, you're borrowing from Visa or the bank or whoever. You're not borrowing from ReSource. You're actually minting those into existence at that point in time. And those resource dollars have value because you're committing to making sales to pay that back. That you will provide your goods and services to other members of the network for paying you with resource dollars to bring your balance back up to zero and into positive. And so those resource dollars that you mint, and every resource dollar in existence is backed by the goods and services of the members of the network. And that's, that mutual credit idea that we're all backing. I know I'm backing you as a trainer. I'm backing Mother Earth Food because I know they supply good food. We're all backing each other with what we're able to do. And so these resource dollars, some are out there are backed by food, some are backed by specifically microgreens, some are backed by marketing services, some are backed by crypto education classes. They're not backed by God, guns, or genes, as I like to say.
Yeah. So military or promise of government, they're backed by tangible things the community is providing.
And that gets into, we get really philosophical on this one. That gets into, why I use resource dollars instead of, US dollar. Looking at what the US dollar, is used for, and usage of that currency supports a certain system. And I have many disagreements with the system that the US dollar enables. We could touch on a number of topics there, but with the resource dollar, I know that it's not supporting a lot of these issues that I have, great struggles with. So that is one. Environmental impact is a very interesting case here, because blockchain does get a lot of flack for the energy use. So I guess for us to make clear about our energy impact, we're built on the Celo blockchain, which is carbon negative through offset programs of our energy use. It's already built on proof of stake model, which is about roughly 99% more energy efficient than the Bitcoin model, which is what people often cite when it comes to energy impact. So we're already extremely more efficient, but then we have offset programs, reforestation, carbon capturing to offset the footprint of our network and our activity. So there's no carbon footprint on the ReSource dollar transactions. And when you use it, it's not a negative to the environment. But then if you dig into, if you just Google, what's the carbon footprint of US dollars, it is huge. So there's, that's one, I guess, particular point of like why, ReSource dollars has a different impact on our world than US dollars, and why using that is, I think, is beneficial.
Yeah, that's a great example. And that's the beauty of protocols. So it's not a one size fits all. So each company and each coin can be incredibly specific based off of ideology and what their values are. So I like that. That is one of the crutches, not crutches, but underlying fundamentals of ReSource is it was baked into the cake. So that was thought of as it was being designed, and very few blockchain techs or just companies in general can design themselves like that from the ground up. So that's one of the unique opportunities that Web3 companies have, is you can kind of build your values right into the protocols and the models that you're creating.
Yeah. And that's, truly the idea of a protocol, what we're building out, which is essentially a set of contracts and ideas that enable people to do things differently than they've done them before. And it's a kind of a living, breathing document that the community then takes, being member owned and run, and is able to build on. And they may like 90% of it, but they can fork it and create a version that has that 10% different, put in some different ingredients. That's fine. People don't have to join that project. They can take their own version, make another fork, or they can join, the one that we've created, or the ones that we are creating. So having that protocol, being that open source mentality, is that, yes, it's in there from the beginning. There are some core things that can't change. But this is something people can take and build on, free of charge. And you can't do that with a bank or with a government or, the Constitution most times.
True. Okay. I think we've touched on a good amount of the fundamentals. If people wanted to learn more, what are the regions specifically that it is currently operating in? So Asheville, North Carolina, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Austin, Texas. What are the other ones? New York, if I remember.
The first two you mentioned, Asheville, Chattanooga, and Austin, are the ones where we have active markets, active networks, buying and selling with each other. We have interest from a number of other locations, like New York being one, LA. There's a list. People who've reached out and say, hey, I want ReSource in my area.
Right.
And so we're, always happy to talk to you. If you're not in Asheville, Austin, or Chattanooga, we're happy to talk to you. Would love to work with you to help launch ReSource in your area. And then, otherwise, resource.finance is our website that has all the information. And if you want to see what our marketplace looks like, there's a link on there to it. If you're interested in joining, which is free of charge, you can do that from there as well. And then, please feel free to poke around and, send us any questions or comments that you have.
I'll put any contact information in the show notes, as well as a link to the application. If anyone is in those areas, scrolls over the sort of the fundamentals, and they're like, I'll give this a shot. I'll have an application link in the show notes as well. And if they wanted to follow any new developments, where can they find ReSources, presence, social media, anything like that?
Yeah, we're on a lot of channels.
Right.
There is Instagram. Definitely recommend. I forget our handles right now.
That's right. I'll put send those to me, and I'll put them all in the show notes. But
we're on
plenty of places.
A lot of channels.
In closing, anything you wanted to say further?
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I've enjoyed talking with you about these ideas from health, fitness, decentralization, sovereignty. whether it's here or on the trail. So I appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Nathan, and we'll talk to you again soon.